Hello everyone, welcome to Is It Good or Not? I'm your host Silver, and this is Reminiscence, an indie horror game developed by Reminiscence Project. Reminiscence is free on Steam, and a quick plot for this game is Reminiscence is a game where you're a physicist who developed the ability to travel back in time. While traveling, you met an entity that promised you endless empty promises, and during this time frame, you, I believe at least, accidentally burned your family. It's still a bit fuzzy. I didn't understand that part. Didn't really explain that part too much. You just said that you were the murderer of your family, I think. But I think your plan is to go back and try to save your family because you developed the ability to time travel. So you developed the ability to time travel, and you're trying to go back in time and save your family, I believe. So that's kind of how the game works. So, how good is this game, though? How good is Reminiscence, a small indie horror game that was released in July 12th, 2021? Well, I'll tell you. For a horror game, we look for a few things. We look for sound, atmosphere, graphics, jump scares, plot, and replayability. Now, for each one of these, I have a 1 to 10 scale. 1 being the worst thing I've ever played, 10 to being the best thing I've ever played, or the best thing in the world. So, pretty basic scale, pretty easy to understand. So, it's Reminiscence, and then you have a final overall score. Then your overall score is 1 out of 10. And it's going to be an average of all the scores together. So, this is my honest and hearted review of Reminiscence. For sound, we got an 8. I give it an 8. Great sound. You can tell directionally where sound is coming from. So, it has great sound design there. For a small indie horror game, it has really good sound design. You can kind of see, you can hear what's going on and different things for different places. So I think that's really, really good in terms of for a horror game. There's plenty more that can be added to the game, but other than that, I think that's great. I really do enjoy it quite a bit in terms of sound. Atmosphere, 9. 100% 9. Great atmosphere. Absolutely wonderful atmosphere. The atmosphere was absolutely phenomenal. It wasn't the best thing I've ever heard. Was the best thing I've ever done. I think Outlast did that for me a long time ago. But the sound was absolutely beautiful. For the atmosphere, you felt like you were in this place. You felt like it was eerie. You had that very scary feeling. Very good atmospheric sounds. There was a lot that they did with the atmosphere, and I absolutely love it. It's psychological horror and storytelling, and I would consider that very good atmosphere. It did very well. And then we go in graphics. Graphics is a 7. It feels like an indie game. Looks like an indie game. Is an indie game, so it's understandable. They're not going to have the AAA graphics that you'd expect out of most games these days, but it wasn't bad. I consider the graphics decent for an indie game. I don't think they were really aiming for graphics, but they could have polished a few models here and there. The main character, or the main ghost that you run into, definitely could have polished that model up quite a bit. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil the end of the game for you. I'm just doing a bit of gameplay and talking over the gameplay, so nothing crazy. But for the ghost itself, like I said, they could have polished it. It wasn't very well polished. It was It felt, what's the word? Shiny. Very shiny. Very weird. Didn't understand it too much, but then again, I would consider it a terrible graphics. It looks decent for an indie game. It looks good for an indie game, but of course, before they released the game, they could have fixed a few lighting bugs here and there. I did run into a handful of lighting bugs, which was interesting, so it wasn't terrible. About jump scares, we look at jump scares, and jump scares, I gotta give it a 10. As weird as that sounds for an indie horror game, for something that time travel but runs into like a time travel monster that took away his family, and he's trying to go back in time to save his family from getting killed, so I think that's a great plot. I think there's plenty more that could be happening to the plot, or plenty more that could be added to the plot. But since it's an indie game and the game's only about 20 minutes long, I feel like plot could be, polished a bit more. I don't think the plot was bad, but I don't think it was great either. But in terms of just the way it was told, it was a very confusing story. It didn't tell a lot of story in the time frame it had. For a 20-minute game, it didn't tell a whole lot of story. It's, like I said, a 20-minute horror game. and it's not even a 20-minute horror game. It's a lot less than that. If you mosey on through the game and speed through the game, it's probably a 10 to 12-minute game. But I took my time and kind of moved around and looked at everything, and it didn't put you in the right direction for a lot of different things. So, but I think there's some stuff that I didn't see because I wasn't paying attention. But other than that, I mean, for replayability value, there is none. But it makes sense for a 20-minute game. For replayability standpoint, you can't really replay a game that's only 20 minutes long. So it's not that it's bad. It's just that it's a 20-minute game. You're not going to get a lot of a 20-minute game, especially most AAA titles are like 40, 50 hours worth of games. Some people just play them nonstop. So, but what would we give this game an overall score? Well, considering all of our averages, we have an 8, a 9, a 7, a 10, an 8, and a no for replayability. That's not going to come into the final score, but I would give this game a final score of a 8.4 out of 10. That's the average, and I definitely recommend this game. It's a very good rating, so I recommend this game to those that want a quick indie scare or something that you can kind of scare your friends with or show off. I think this game's so much potential, so much that could be added to it if they continuously develop it and add more story to it. It would be an amazing game, but I don't think they will. So, but that's it for today's video. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.